The Pod Bay Door, a Las Vegas podcast.
And they're bringing back another lost leader of Las Vegas. Love to see it.
Yeah,
the 99-cent shrimp,
shrimp
cocktail. Great.
Hey, I'm for it too.
We laughed about O'Shea's. That was a place,
Yeah.
if you heard about something, you said the cops on the street, well, we got a
It had
knife
to be
fight.
O'Shea's.
They didn't have to be told where to go. They knew where to go.
Right.
We got to go to O'Shea's.
You think he's going to sell it?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
Now, what I heard just yesterday, that
Okay.
the two parties that are interested are MGM
Yes.
and Caesars.
Big surprise.
Yeah, big surprise. Now, I remember, ironically, when Steve Wynn was going to sell the Bellagio and Mirage,
The Mirage, yeah.
to MGM, and Kirk Kerkorian was in, and he said,
Yeah.
"Why do you want to buy it? Look how old you are. Shouldn't you be thinking of selling?" And Kerkorian, of course, lived another 20 years or something. He was old. Adelson is old, and he's sick.
Yes.
Right?
very.
He's
Extremely
sick,
sick, yeah.
so he might be thinking, is my family going to take over this? And remember, my understanding is he's only talked about selling the Las Vegas assets. They still have the Venetian in Macau. I haven't heard about that.
Right.
I don't know if that's included.
I it'll be interesting what he does regarding that, but
But the other thing is also Adelson being a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the low time to sell, I would think, because things aren't so good here.
yeah.
So why
yeah.
would you sell? I mean, he's talking about $6 billion.
Right. Now, what we're talking about, if you're new to the show, Sheldon Adelson, the owner of the Sands Corporation, which owns, of course, the large convention facility, and the Venetian Hotel, the Palazzo Tower, and so on and so forth. Again, Macau properties and Asian properties. He has let it leak, as things do.
Yeah.
That he's considering. Highly considering selling. In fact, I absolutely think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
To whom we don't know. And a little bit of background, John and I started our careers in Las Vegas at the Venetian,
Yeah.
which I remember very fondly. In fact, we'll talk about that for a few minutes.
Yeah. Stalag 17.
Stalag 17, yeah. And, it's... John and I spoke about this when we first heard about it, and my reaction probably, I don't know, was surprising to you, maybe, I don't know. But I think that this may send a negative message to the town, although now with MGM and Caesars Corp.'s looking at picking up the property, I may be wrong, but I think that this people may interpret this as not a health issue, but a financial issue. Hey, let's get off this ship before it sinks.
Yeah.
And I have two concerns. One, that's what it means, he's, regardless of John's and my viewpoint of him personally and the way he runs the business, he's a very respected person in this particular industry and town. And what he does and says carries a lot of weight. And I'm afraid that weight is being put on the sales, and that's going to scare a lot of people. On the other side of it, if it doesn't scare them, then MGM and an already established brand doesn't pick up the property and run it accordingly, who's going to pick it up?
Yeah.
That's a little scary. Obviously they won't drive it down to a circus level.
Yeah.
But what are they going to do to it? Because the Venetian is an expensive place. Yeah. Both to the consumer and, for the owners.
Even when we worked there, I remember the overhead was $1 million a day.
A day, yeah.
That means, they got to be raking in $1 million just to cover their costs.
Yeah.
And you've got, 3,500 rooms back then, when we were there, 3,446 or something like that. I remember the exact number. And they pretty much had to be 90% occupied.
Yes.
Depending on time of year and rate to stay afloat. You had to have that casino going. Mm-hmm. So with things being in such a down market this year, and you see, I always look at it, that's really one of the issues I always thought with business in America is they are so short-sighted. Mm-hmm. They're only looking at the next quarter. They never kind of get the big picture.
Right.
And, they're saying, yes, well, we're down 32% from last year at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, when things get better, and they will. I mean, pandemics do that. They stick around for a couple years.
Sure.
And then they go away. And then things will pick up again.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll say, look, we're 32% above where we were last year, which means we were where we should be, right? So it's going to pick up on the other end at some point. I do believe that. I think, unfortunately now, because of their efforts to try to get some people in, the people who are coming in here aren't the normal type of regular clientele that we get, and they've been having problems.
Yes.
They've got a lot of assholes showing up. I don't know where they're coming from, but they're not the kind that we like here. And
we're still having fights. We're having fights and had a good one in the airport. I recently saw an article for they were throwing fists in the airport.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
But and the Venetian, not only did they have that $1 million a day nut, they had all of their very few of their facilities, restaurants and stores and things were actually Venetian branded.
Yeah.
They probably very smartly, rented the facilities to a Wolfgang Puck, Thomas Keller,
yes,
Emerald. But restaurants specifically are suffering so much.
Yeah.
For example, Bouchon, Chef Thomas Keller, a great guy. But he's suffering the ills of it. I mean, I have it on good account that they're slimming their staff down, and they had just opened a brand new restaurant, which took a lot of their funding, and so the Venetian is kind of the Venetian and Las Vegas location for restaurants, especially that are small high-end chains. It's becoming sort of an albatross, and go ahead.
No, sorry. I was saying that, and also with the restaurants, sometimes, I mean, they do have, because they are the landlord, they can manipulate or decide, no, I don't want another Italian restaurant or whatever. I want this other kind. Because I remember I went to see System of a Down at T-Mobile. Before it, I went in the California Pizza Kitchen, right? There's one right there by T-Mobile. I go in there, and the waitress that was there, she was a really lovely girl. And she was telling me she had 3 jobs. She worked at 3 different restaurants, and she worked there at the Pizza Kitchen, but she also worked at Aquinox, the Venetian.
Oh, boy.
And she said, but we're closing that restaurant. And this was long before, that was two years ago. And I said, oh, why isn't it business? Because no, business is great. We're packed all the time. But the lease is up and they won't renew it. So, that's how they manipulate who they want in there too. You see the restaurant goes out or they close and they open somewhere else. It wasn't because business necessarily was bad.
Right.
It could have been a number of other reasons. But now these places are hurting.
Yeah, very much so. And it's not, obviously Venetian is not the only place. I mean, there are many businesses that are going out. In fact, let me grab this article here. For example, Las Vegas Review-Journal came out with this article. What is the date today?
I think today's the 7th.
It's the 7th. Yeah, today's this article came out. And the David Lee's The Liquidators. And I'm actually familiar with that. We've actually shopped there before. It is the place that sells used hotel furniture.
Oh.
And the article writer focused on this particular person as an example of people that are suffering. His rent, for example, as the article says, for his warehousing facility is $20,000 a month.
Ooh.
Compared to $1 million a day, not so much, but $20,000 a month. And he's finding, obviously, because they're not, casinos aren't remodeling, they're not building new places, they're not selling the furniture, they're not getting rid of the furniture, and so therefore they have no stock, and the people don't have any money to do it anyway, so they can't. So it's a very difficult time for him.
It's called David Lee.
David Lee's The Liquidators.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you bought stuff there, you said?
What's that?
You said you bought...
A long time ago, we bought a chair.
Oh.
It's since gone.
Yeah.
It was...
I have things in fact, I have my dishes that I have in my house came from the Sahara.
Right.
When they closed, they liquidated everything, and I bought pictures for I was just moved in a couple of months ago, so I had bare walls, and I went in and I took some pictures off the hotel room hotel room, camels, and a few other things. They were pretty nice frames.
Yeah.
And I paid, $5-10 each. And the restaurants had gone out. They had all these new, dishes and things like that. And I bought those there too.
Yeah.
Plus shot glasses with the Sahara name on it.
Yeah.
Bought a couple dozen.
I used to collect chips.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful collection of chips, $5, and $1. Of course, they don't even use the $1 anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that. I treasure it. It's wonderful. Now, the article goes on to discuss more about David Lee's woes, but more to the point, his is common in town.
Yeah.
Right now, as far as the the National Federation of Independent Businesses lists Nevada, specifically Las Vegas, as with 861 businesses permanently closed.
Oh, geez.
Since the pandemic.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Now, it also quotes, which I wanted to get your opinion on, that the standard person has 3 months reserves at any given time. Do you think that's accurate?
No, I don't think so. That counter indicates what others that I've heard say the average person doesn't even have $500.
Oh, so you're saying it's lower?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, they're going based on that sort of bulwark of 3 months.
Now that might be locally here, but I'm saying nationally. It's very concerning to realize nobody's got any money.
Right.
Really.
And since they stopped the stipend for the stimulus package, lost wages, of course, is going on in Nevada, and some people have access to that. That's only $300 a week. So if 3 months is an overestimation, then our town is in trouble. Now, as according to Yelp, which I don't know when Yelp got in the polling business, but. 60% of all U.S. businesses that closed during the pandemic have not reopened.
Now, does it, that could mean, of course, they've gone out of business, or just the fact that they haven't reopened because they're not allowed, or some other
That's
reason.
true. Now, following that up, the U.S. Census Bureau found that 23.3% of businesses expected to need financial aid or additional capital. They will need that within the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Or else. That's basically what they're saying. And it's I visited my mom. I traveled to Phoenix. And she asked me this question, and she asked me a lot, how's Las Vegas doing? Unfortunately, and I know the listeners don't love to hear me talk about this, but you and I have always promised to be truthful.
Yeah.
Not good.
No,
it's not good.
No,
but we're not any different than any other city.
Right. Now, on the one hand, you could say, hey, it's not as crowded. They are going to welcome you. You're not going to have to wait in line for some things.
Sure.
But
sure.
On the other hand, look at some of these people we see out on the, with the fights that have been breaking out. We didn't have that before. You had ones in certain places.
Right.
We laughed about O'Shea's. So that was the place. If you heard about something, you said the cops on the street. Yeah, we got a knife fight.
O'Shea's.
They didn't have to be told where to go. They knew where to go.
Right.
We got to go to O'Shea's, or something like that. But now it's becoming more commonplace.
Yeah.
And so that's not good.
So they've coined a term for what's happening in Vegas, and it's happened only in the last couple of weeks in earnest, is the rolling blackouts of occupancy.
Yeah.
Basically what that means is that, and it's spearheaded by the MGM.
Yeah.
Saying, you can check in Thursday after 3.
Yeah.
You may stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday, check out Monday by 11, essentially. I mean, there may be an hour difference here and there. And the rest of the time they are closed.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And they're coining the rolling blackouts of Vegas.
Yeah.
And two questions for you. Do you think that'll work? Do you think that'll bide the time for the casinos and the hotels and all the other stuff? And two, do you think people are still coming?
Well, yeah, because it used to be the people that came during the week, Monday through Friday, they were the conventioneers.
Yeah.
Right. That's when they don't put the conventions on the weekends.
Right.
Almost never. I mean, it's pretty they might arrive. Hey, I got a convention Monday. I'll show up Friday or Sunday. Anyway, we remember the mass exodus on Sunday, and then people
we prayed for it, John.
Yes, we prayed for it. And here it is. And then you have people coming and going and what have you. And there's a
Right.
convention usually started on a Tuesday or whatever.
Mhm.
And now we don't have that for this year. And
Right.
probably for next year, for 2001 or
Yeah.
2021. It'll come back at some point.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was interesting. I was reading an interview with Noam Chomsky, and they had asked Chomsky, who was born in 1928. You know, you were born really 10
So
years.
was my dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my parents were born in 1923, right?
Uh-huh.
And they asked David Barsamian, who was doing the interview, asked Chomsky if he remembered hearing anything, because Chomsky was East Coast. And I know that my family, that I remember my grandmother being born 1906, was West Coast. And she would have been 12 years old when they had the Spanish flu epidemic, the last
Right.
pandemic. And, you know, growing up, I never heard them say anything about, oh, I remember when they had this and what people had to do, or, oh, it was terrible. Now, granted, they didn't have the widespread media coverage, because they just didn't have it. You had radio and you had newspaper, and you had TV. But Chomsky even said, of course, he was born 10 years after that, but even growing up, nobody ever referred to it. There's this form of amnesia.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that that's going to happen. They keep saying this is, you know, the life will never be the same. No, it's going to go back. People will be more cognizant of certain things, washing their hands, which maybe they don't do, or physical contact. Over time, they're going to forget. That's just the way it is. I mean, I look at it and I'm just appalled at the political amnesia. The way people looking at Barack Obama now like he's Jesus Christ. They couldn't stand the guy 4 years ago, really.
No, that's true.
You know, if you go back 6 years during the midterm when the Democrats lost the House and the Senate, the Democrats who were running distanced themselves as far as way as they could from Obama, because they didn't want them to be, you know, because he was his own plague. But now all of a sudden everybody forgets that in just a few years. And I think it's going to be the same thing. At some point, people are going to forget about this.
Yeah, you know, it's I was incorrect, actually. My father was born in 1921 and actually experienced, you know, the Depression.
Yeah.
And if you read the history and watch the history of the Depression, how it happened, how people reacted, how people got through it, how people got through it, exactly what you're saying. They got through it, and then it just became part of our history books.
Yeah.
But it seems worse now. I don't know. It seems worse almost because of our technology.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, we weren't the world power back in
21
in that, and this is where you start to see the soft underbelly of empire, because we have so much money and resources in other countries. And that's why everybody said, where were you going to get the money from? We're the richest country in the world. Yeah. If other countries can provide for their citizens, we certainly should be able to. Well, we can. We just don't want to. And what they do is they instill this whole idea of this rugged individualism, that, you know, you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you're on your own. And other countries don't share that. You know, I mean, certainly my time I spent in Asia, and traveling and working in China, you know, in a communist country, you realize that, system may not work for us, but it works for them.
Right.
Really, you know, it really does. I mean, they're quite happy there. You know, in the Philippines, we look at somebody like Duterte being the Filipino Donald Trump.
Right.
But there's a big difference, is that he was popularly elected. He's still popular because they see themselves as a family. We don't. We don't see that. We're not related to one another. We're individuals. It's me and maybe my little clan, but there's not that sense of unity that you see. That's why, you know, you look at Asian cultures, what they refer to people as. Here, if you see some old guy you don't know on the street, you say, "Hey, Grandpa." That might be considered rude, right? But not over there in Japan. It's very common. That's what you do call them. You call them, you know, it's the old guy who, you know the Ojisha, the old guy, the grandpa. It's grandfather. It's not my grandfather, but he's of that age and of that stature. Right. He's somebody's grandfather, and we're all connected that way. Or, you know, in the Philippines, they all, when they refer to me, the people that I know there, they call me Kuya, which means older brother. Right? It's great. I like Japan. I was uncle. I'd be uncle when you get to this age. But kids, you know, 17, 18, Kuya, older brother. You know, obviously I'm not.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one for you. What year did you get to Las Vegas prior to working at the Venetian?
The first time I came, the very first time just to visit was let me see. I was born 59, 1980. I was 21.
80. Now, did you have your position at the Venetian
Yeah.
before you came the next time? Were you already here and then applied?
No, what I did was I came and I visited again in
Okay.
about 90, 97, because I was thinking of moving here.
Okay.
In 99, when I got hired, and I got hired in February, right? I just happened to be here for 6 weeks. Again, I was teaching in Japan. I had the way the Japanese school year is, it ends in late January. It doesn't
Right.
resume again until April.
Right.
So I had 3 months off, and I decided I was going to come here and look around, really see if I wanted to relocate here. So while I was here, it just so happened that the Venetian, the Mandalay Bay, and a few other places were hiring.
Oh, that's right. The Mandalay Bay was.
Yeah. So, but by the time I got to the Mandalay Bay, they didn't have anything left except food and beverage. That's what they thought. Nah, go to hell. So the Venetian was wide open. In fact, what position do you want? I didn't know. I said, this is what you tell me. Can I work in your establishment? Yeah. What do you have for me? So they interviewed me and got a call back and said, we think maybe concierge. Oh, okay. And then we had, the group interview and all that.
Yes.
I did all that while I was here on vacation.
I think I had 4 days of interviews. I had the initial, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And they directed me towards the concierge desk.
Yeah.
And then they had the group interview, like you said, which was just nonsense.
Yeah.
Group dynamics came out of the 80s and was a failure back then.
Yeah.
And then they had the audition.
Yeah.
Maybe it was only 3. We had the audition as a concierge.
And all of that was right up my alley. Because why? Because you remember this, find somebody who, whatever it was in the group, right? Were you born in February or whatever it was? Well, I used to do all that all the time with my students. First day of class, it's a conversation class, right? I taught English. I taught oral and oral English. So that was part of it. Is you have to talk to your other classmates because there's no other English speakers here to practice. So that was it. I would gather this data about them, and then I would make this chart up, and we would go around. So that activity was very familiar to me. And then when we did the rehearsal, the audition, I did role play. And I would do role play with them. So I said it's the same thing. In fact, I even said when they came out, I said, okay. First thing I said to them was, I know one of you is a good cop, one of you is the bad cop. Right?
Right, exactly.
I saw it coming.
Exactly.
The HR people, and I had jokes, and I had them already planned up in advance.
Yeah. I look back on it. It was a good time. I mean, I met some really great people. You obviously, and a bunch of our friends there.
Stalag 17.
Stalag 17. We spent 12 weeks in the basement of the Venetian while it was still being built.
Yeah, that was the best time.
Yeah, and we ate 12 weeks of deli sandwiches and
Capriati's stock went up.
Right,
that's a local sandwich shop.
But it was people. It was interesting that the Venetian, being such a high-end property for this town.
Yeah.
It was really interesting how fly by the seat of your pants certain departments were. Ours, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us. I don't remember any one of the initial staff that was a concierge.
No.
And maybe that was purposeful.
There was a couple. I think Debbie maybe, or
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
most of us didn't have any experience with it.
And then and then 12 weeks later we were opening. And it was.
Oh, that was a knee to the groin. When you think about how bad the opening was with things not working. Now we're looking at, we opened a new hotel. Some of the good news lately, and I hope it does well downtown.
Me too. Yep.
Churka has opened, and at least the casino has. Now they have promised. I mean, we know it's going to be adults only. Some of the hotels here, that's great, and they're bringing back another lost leader of Las Vegas. Love to see it. Yeah, the 99-cent shrimp cocktail. Great.
Hey, I'm for it too.
I hope it's just not a promotion. I hope that stays.
Yeah, I agree.
And the 99 shrimp cocktail, even at $2.99 was a bargain. Right?
Oh, I'm telling you, Lady Luck, the $1 hot dog with your local driver's license. That was the best deal because the hot dog was as long as your arm.
Yeah.
But
And Binion's used to have they had the steakhouse here, which was famous.
oh, it was so good.
Because Binion's had his own cattle ranch.
Yes.
Right? And
yeah.
that's where the meat came from.
Yeah. Now, when Benny died, that changed.
Yeah.
That whole thing changed.
That whole thing changed.
You know,
so
and then,
hopefully, and it's downtown. It's big. It's a lot bigger than those other hotels down there. Was it 44 stories? Something like that?
The
new
horseshoe?
one, Chirka.
Oh, Chirka. Yeah, I believe so.
Circa.
I'll look that up while we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Binion's was great. Binion's suffered two things. Benny died.
Yeah.
And Ted was a knob.
Yeah, and then he died.
And
or
then he
killed,
died.
That's when I moved here. They were having the murder trial.
The
of
murder
his
trial,
girlfriend.
Ted Binion and the missing the silver.
Yeah, buried in the desert.
Yeah, we'll go with he died.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that really killed the horseshoe was the internet, specifically internet poker. The horseshoe was the place to go for poker. And it there were pictures there of all the classic poker games. And I mean, people like Gabe Kaplan and Benny still playing, and Doyle Brunson, and it was an amazing time. And then the silly internet people came in and ruined it.
Yeah.
But no, the steakhouse was just amazing. I mean, it was only, what was it, 5 stories up? It was a very small place. But the steak was amazing, and oysters Rockefeller. That was the best thing to have.
Yeah.
All right, Shirka. 44, yes.
Yeah.
So what do you miss about the Vegas we're talking about? What do you miss when we were here? When we were on staff and everything. Do you miss anything about the Venetian first?
Absolutely not. Nothing.
Nothing.
Not one thing do I miss about that fucking place. The lobby was nice. I liked looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
And it was neat to me thinking we had the Hermitage.
You like to look at the
paintings on the walls.
Yeah.
Sorry. And they had the Hermitage Museum. It was small, and I'd been through there. But just to think, I thought, wow, they've got whatever it was that was on display there, Rembrandt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like 20 feet away from $1 million of artwork.
Yes, exactly.
And to me that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looked nice. The drive and if you remember, because of the construction going on, at least the last year I was there and before I left, we never knew if we were going to be allowed in the parking lot or not. And then they started wanting us to park at the old San Remo. I think it was where was it? Around the Maxim. Sorry, the Maxim, and then bus us in and to get to work and oh shit. Yeah, no. And wearing the uniform and then dealing in the same questions, the same shit over and over again.
Yeah. So nothing.
The only thing that I actually liked, because we had some control of it, and I didn't think I would, was being on the phone days, because we could sit in the back. I didn't have to deal with anybody, and if the queue got too long, you could just pause it, take a breath, and I don't want to talk to that guy, and just throw him back in the queue.
But then I have to fact check myself. It's 34 floors, not 44.
Oh, 34?
Chirka is 34.
Okay.
To the phone thing, but then and this was after the fall, I think, of the concierge department.
Yeah.
They would monitor the phones.
Oh yes, I didn't like. They didn't tell us that.
No. And I don't think they realized what a liability that was.
Yeah,
you are by law required to let individuals know, even employed by you, that they are being monitored. It can be something small. It can be one statement or a sign or whatever. But they didn't.
No, they didn't do that. It was, in fact, one of the phone guys was putting in the phones told me that. Was you're being no. They goes, yeah. There's a line right here. Mm-hmm. And everything, the cameras that were on us all the time. There was just that, it was a toxic work environment because of the security, which was there because they always just assumed that you were going to try to steal something from them. And always seemed to, and I thought, with all the background checks that they did before we got hired, in fact, for me, because I'd worked in Japan, when I came there, they actually called me because I'd gone back to Japan. I had a week or whatever to pack my stuff up and go back to Las Vegas to start. They called me in Japan. To one of their security people saying, we need to verify this. What's the number and everything? I said, well, you realize that if you're going to call, you're going to talk to the secretary there at the school. And I hope you know Japanese. because she's not going to know very much English.
Right.
Oh, well, we just need to go through this. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, here you go. And where did you work here? I mean, they went back 20 years
Yeah.
on stuff. So if they're doing that and still don't trust you, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that I never missed. Now, there were certain days, like I said, that things worked out. Oh, that was good. When they put me in one of the hospitality suites for the Guggenheim, and I didn't want to go up there. I think it was Guggenheim. It might have been the J. Paul Getty, whatever, but because those people were really nice and they had a great spread up there. And then they left. Where's everybody? Oh, they went on, they got it booked on a tour or something. So what am I supposed to do? Just wait for them to come back. Well, when will that be? 3 hours. Great. You guys are getting your heads handed to you downstairs. Yeah. And I call in and I can hear all the noise back. What are you doing up there? I said, I'm sitting here eating this cheese because they told me to eat this stuff, man. It's just gonna go bad.
Yeah. It was an interesting job. It introduced, I think, all of us to the massive crowds that could be had by casinos, which is in stark contrast to what's going on now.
Halloween, you got women flashing you their enhanced titties, and I had to deal with an irascible midget.
Yeah,
right. That was it. That was the draw, man. It's just that's like, oh shit! I just landed on Boardwalk with the other guy's got 3 hotels on it.
Now, what do you miss about the town from back then?
Free parking. Things like that, and I think that they screw people. The thing is that when the hotel screws people over by adding on all of their resort fees and things like that, and that's going to annoy people. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them for being annoyed, but then they take it out on us,
right? Oh,
like I did it, or the front desk agent. You know, the front desk people had 100% turnover every year. Mm-hmm. That was it. Now we didn't have that at first. There was kind of, for us, it was kind of like it was an earthquake, which was sudden, and then it just dropped everything, because then we started dropping like flies every month. Mm-hmm. Fred left, and then Danette, and then I went, and then everybody was gone, and you were left holding the bag.
I was
for like 3 more years or whatever. But we really appreciate you holding the door open for us.
You're all welcome.
Escape hatch.
Yeah, I mean, we've already discussed this, a lot on the podcast.
Some of the shows that are gone now, Siegfried and Roy, and back then, and Lance Burton, and they had some of the shows. Even then, they was starting to tilt towards Cirque du Soleil, and they just got more of them over time, and I think that they saturated the market. Now, some of the shows are coming back. They just started. David Copperfield played last night.
Speaking of that, there's a show with Katie Mixon, called the American Housewife.
Okay,
it's a sitcom.
Okay,
it's pretty good. And they used the thing that you and I have talked about so many times. They were talking. It came up. Sigmund Freud was used.
Yeah,
and the sort of silly kid corrected her and say it's Sigmund and Freud, and he got attacked by a tiger anyway.
Oh.
And that was the joke. I'm not, that was the punchline. But I had to laugh because of the you and I have dealt with that so many times. But now somebody else has actually used it.
They kind of turned it around, right?
Yeah.
But the same thing here. It was Sigmund and Freud.
Yeah.
And I thought, Jesus, Siegfried and Roy are I mean, they're like Elvis, right? I mean, they were the mod. How do you get his name wrong?
Now, how about of all the properties that are now no longer here?
Yeah.
What do you miss? You miss anyone?
Stardust.
Stardust.
I just because you remember Stardust is really with Casino, the movie that was, I think they called it the Algiers or something like that in the movie, but it was really the Stardust. To me, that kind of signaled that, and that was one of the first hotels I went to when I came in 1980. Right, I went there and I remember I put a dime in the slot machine. First time I put in there, and I hit a jackpot and won like $5. Lost it all, but I remember that's a memory for me. And when I used to come and tool around Las Vegas for 2 or 3 days to see if I wanted to live here, I stayed at the Stardust. It was $30 a night, and I was gone all the time. It was just a place to leave my suitcase, take a shower, sleep, and I'm gone again. So that's why, at the Venetian, I didn't understand why people stayed in their rooms. They were upset they didn't have HBO.
Right.
Watch it when you get home, and they show the same thing like a dozen times a week.
Yeah.
You know, back then. And now that was before they had online stuff. But.
Yeah. Stardust, I think I've mentioned this before. Stardust is the first hotel where I saw a show. I saw Enter the Night. It was a fantastic show. It was just a variety show.
I met my first showgirl They're in the lobby
Oh
of the
yeah.
Stardust. Yes.
Okay. And you married her. No,
Oh, I
I'm just
wish I
kidding.
did.
I miss the like the IP, the Imperial Palace.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The car collection,
Yes, the car
the
collection,
Nazi car collection.
the Nazi car collection, true. And the fact that you went into the IP
Yeah,
and then couldn't get out.
yeah, yeah,
You had to go when you walked down with these escalators, but there wasn't a return escalator.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there were you couldn't reverse and get right out.
Yeah.
You had to go all the way in the casino, all the
Yep.
way up. It was really funny.
It's really the opposite. I mean, it was the same principle, but in reverse of P.T. Barnum when he had
Right.
his, he couldn't get people to leave,
Right.
the museum. So they would just, because he didn't put a time limit on, he wanted them to go.
Yeah.
So he put a sign, this way to the egress. And people thought, what's an egress? That must be some kind of a bird.
A bird.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go there. Well, it was an exit. That's what it meant. They opened the door, they go out, and the door would slam shut behind them. They couldn't get back in. Pay
Right.
another dime to get in.
Right. Oh, that's
This is the
fantastic.
opposite. You can't get out.
So I know you're a baseball fan.
Yep.
You a football fan?
Yeah.
Do you-
not as much as baseball, but I like football.
Now, have you followed the usage of the Allegiant Stadium, Death Star?
Oh yes, yes. The Allegiant, the Raiders have been playing there
Yes.
with no fans.
With no fans.
But UNLV played their first game, and they had fans. They had 2,000.
Yeah.
Now I don't know honestly. Yeah, I mean, come on, the UNLV. They used to play at Sam Boyd.
Mhm.
That was good enough for them.
Right.
I think it's absolutely overkill that you have a Mountain West team and a not a very good one
Mm-hmm.
playing in a 65,000 seat stadium when they probably only need 10 or 12.
Yeah.
I would think 2,000. That might have been all that wanted to see that game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was a big game. It was against Reno. That's
Okay.
always that's the state rivalry game.
Yeah.
But they had 2,000 people in, so those were the first fans allowed in Allegiant Stadium, and it wasn't even for a Raider game.
Yeah. Now, recently, if anybody is a Raider fan or a football fan or a fan of large-scale construction, go to the Raiders, it just says Raiders, YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And you can watch the pieces they did, narrated by Mike Rowe, about the stadium.
Oh.
And you can see things, how they built the tracks for the plate, where they roll in.
Yeah, what they do
turf.
is the
It's amazing.
field it rolls in and out,
Mhm.
so they can bring it out in the sunshine because
Exactly.
grass needs light.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of that here. We've now gone 201 days, I think. Now this is a record with no rain. It might rain tonight, 40% chance.
I know, 40%.
But it hasn't rained since April. The previous record was set in 1959. It was 150 days. So we've blown
Destroyed
past
it,
that.
yeah.
We've destroyed that.
Yeah.
So we're at 200. If we make it through today, it'll be 201.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they roll out the grass on rollers. I mean, that's a football field.
Yeah.
And then they roll it back in.
So what do you think about an expansion team? It's being talked again about of basketball for Vegas.
Yeah, we still talked about it. We don't want to be a real city. We like to be in a mirage, an illusion.
Yeah.
The Festival of Fools destination, and
Right.
I know they were talking about movie theaters. This is the death knell for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I've heard this before. I heard it in the 80s when they came out with VCRs.
Right.
I think once we get a handle on this pandemic, and we will.
Mm-hmm.
That people are going to be dying to get out of the house. They're going to be sick and tired of watching shit on their television.
Right.
They're going to want to go to the movies again. And probably of places to go, even now, public places, a movie theater, you can, they're rarely full anyway. I like to go to the ones that have those comfortable seats. The only problem is they're too comfortable. You can probably fall asleep
True.
in it,
True.
but they're spread apart far enough. I mean, I kind of think a movie theater would be one of the safer places to go in public.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, I think people are going to want to see that. Some movies I've seen, I thought, oh, that's good. It would have been a lot better on the big screen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the whole streaming issue. Like Disney Plus obviously is going to put a lot of their Star Wars content and Marvel content on Disney Plus. neither here nor there, but Mulan was they tried the premium service on Mulan. Not only were you paying for Disney Plus, but you paid $30 to see Mulan.
Ooh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And again, I can't say it was a failure or not, but it was definitely a failure for me. I would never do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be I do think you're right. Specifically, movie theaters in Vegas, I think, are going to become an event. You can eat, it's not going to be the dry cleaning and bowling alley and movie theater.
Yeah.
It's going to be in a bar, a restaurant, movie theater, and just a whole event, watching this film. Um, in keeping with what they tried to do before the pandemic is the community table, and that
Yeah.
type of restaurant. Nobody really likes that.
No, no.
But I think it'll be a better version of the community table, type of scenario. So I do agree with you. I think it will come back. I think Vegas is going to shrink itself to accommodate who will be coming back. I think it's going to be more manageable. And I think that a lot of people are going to get their jobs back, but I think the massive part of Vegas is gone for a while.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to dial it down, and concentrate on quality service.
Yeah.
And really bring those people back. That being said, as promised, I have another room to talk about.
Good.
Yes, Cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Friends of mine, portion of them are, and they do a great job. I've already railed on, that ridiculous article that said that they're a hotspot for the virus. They are not.
Yeah. Just because people walk through it doesn't mean that.
That's just so unfair. Won't belabor the point. But I stayed and had a tour of one of the Cosmos standard rooms.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice. I have to say that they were a step above as it regards the perception of being clean.
Yeah.
They did not skimp on the amenities.
Yeah.
They had a full complement of soaps and shampoos and everything else. You didn't get just the one. But everything was, they obviously are using a cleaner that doesn't smell like bleach. You smelled, it was lovely. And everything was sparkling clean. And as I walked, to the room, they were being actively cleaned, and the hallway was being actively cleaned where I was. Could have been a coincidence,
Yeah.
but I mean, there was a guy spraying the carpets. There was a guy wiping the handrails. They were all wearing masks. They were all well geared up. The room was, however, in the last reviews, was smaller. It was the standard now. It was a standard room. One queen size bed that I saw. The standard credenza, the armoire, the television, all of which were very nice.
Yeah.
Very colorful. The room that I saw was it was unfortunately did not have a view. It was a view of the ACs, and there are those rooms. That happens. But it was very comfortable. The bed was extremely comfortable, and it was reasonably distanced from the amenities of the casino, meaning that you didn't, like the Venetian, you had to go a long way to get to something.
Yeah.
This was not. You just went down, turned left, and there was something to play. So I thought it was excellent. There were no obvious negatives to it other than its size. It was quite small. But going back to your point, you just need the bed, the bathroom, and the door locks, and it's clean.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
And a closet.
Yeah.
Well, and that was it. Traditionally, they always made the rooms a little bit small, a little bit uncomfortable because they didn't want you to stay in it. It was a very shrewd business model.
Yeah.
I used to try to explain that to people, and they would say, "You don't have HBO in the room. You're a 5-star hotel."
Right.
That's not one of the criteria for getting 5 stars. Well, I'm going to go to the block. Go ahead. They don't have it either. Believe me, everybody watches what everybody else has.
Right.
And if they pump an HBO in the room, they're going to find out that people aren't dining in the restaurants. They're not going to the shops. They're not in the souvenir store because of the fact that they're home watching. At that time, the big show was The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got, whatever it is, Game of Thrones, whatever they have now. But that's popular that people are going to want to watch on Sunday night. They can't wait. Whatever. No,
sure.
You're not going to be watching it in the room. We're not going to have it.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So, in fact, it was when I went to the Sahara when they were selling things. Now, this was the second time I came back. So this was 10 years ago. I've been back 10 years. So it was even after that. So I think it was 2011 that the Sahara went out, and they had the old cathode ray TVs in the room
Mm-hmm.
because you could take, you know, and I thought about, gee, if I had room for it, not that I would use it,
Right.
but just as a collector, you know, as a conversation piece someday. This is what TVs used to look like. I don't have an old one that has that cathode ray tube, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, it wasn't a great television, and but that's it. They didn't really expect people to watch much. Maybe just watch the news or something, but get out of the room. So, yeah.
So last question. What is going to bring the people back to Vegas?
I think when things open up again more, I mean, in the sense that the conventions, of course, are going to be huge. That's going to be big when they go away from the virtual. Some I think CES said they were going to be virtual this year. There's certain things, there's certain meetings I think overall may be gone forever.
Yeah.
But some of those are really small, right? I mean, somebody would come in the Venetian and they would just have the meeting room because there might only be 20 for something.
Sure.
Those types of meetings can probably be done online now. But that was probably something that the pandemic probably only pushed in that direction. You know, I've worked from home remotely full time, not just as a gig worker or anything, full time for two different places for the last 15 years. And of course, when I first moved off site from my job, it was a learning curve for all of us. We didn't have video. We had phones,
right,
and we still didn't even have text messaging or things like Zoom. It was Microsoft Net Connector, I forget what it was called, Net Meeting,
okay,
or something,
Yeah.
and we could do that. And they would have to bring a laptop in the conference room so they could wire me in, and it was all audio. So that's evolved a lot. So I mean, my agencies, we've used Zoom for 3 years. And before that, it was WebEx. And so it was always something that we use. So this is nothing new to me. I think other places were not willing to change
right,
until now.
right.
Right. And now they find out, hey, we could do this meeting, this sales meeting, whatever. Those small ones are probably might be gone, but the large ones, no, the touchy feely ones, the CES, I don't want to look at it on TV.
Yeah.
I want to go up there and see it in person. I want
Right.
to see how cool that 85-inch television is.
Right.
Right. Or whatever. Or remember when they had 3D was the big thing. I can't watch it on my TV and see what it's like. I got to go there and put the goggles on myself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Those sorts of things, they're going to come back and they'll bring people. And then when the shows open up again, and we're already starting to see a trickle of those. I think some of the remnants, the hand washing will hopefully stay. Again, it's just being hygienic.
Yeah.
You know, some years ago, I think it was 2008, 2000. I remember reading in Men's Health magazine where they did a survey or a study of shopping cart handles, and found that a large percentage of them had fecal matter on it. That's disgusting. Maybe if you wash your hands, don't forget.
Oh,
you
dear.
wash your hands for Christ's sake, and you won't find that. Maybe that'll improve.
It'll definitely improve, and Vegas is going to come back.
It will. I'm not. It's just when, and I think it'll come back sooner than people think.
Yeah.
Once we get a handle on this, next year I'm sure we'll bring vaccines if people are willing to take it. I mean, I saw, one poll recently, and it was now assuming that not like you're going to be a beta user, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to be a first adopter. I'm going to want to try this vaccine. But once it's established, and are you going to get one? And it was only about 50-50.
Right.
And to me, it's just like,
yeah. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for that first round of folks.
Yeah, but still, eventually, would you get one?
Well, sure, I guess. I'd have to, again, I want to see the data as to what are the negatives, what are the side effects,
Yeah.
growing a third eye. I mean,
But usually there's treatments that that do that. But vaccines, oftentimes it's, you know,
know.
because they are infecting you basically with the virus,
Yeah.
are the same as flu-like symptoms.
Exactly.
So, you know,
Yeah,
you might get a
exactly.
milder case of it.
I guess
but-
so. I've only recently started with flu shots, so
Yeah.
who knows?
Especially as you get older, right? Because
Yeah.
that's the demographic that gets hit.
That's true. That's true.
But, you know, I mean, looking down the line, and maybe we're old enough we don't have to worry about the next pandemic, but there will be another one.
Yeah.
And you know, you look at another coronavirus, you know, the Ebola, that's
Mhm.
a coronavirus. Now, unlike this one, Ebola was not highly infectious, but it was very deadly.
Yes.
Killed just about everybody.
Yeah.
This coronavirus is not that deadly
Mhm.
in terms of sheer numbers,
Mhm.
but it's highly infectious.
Mhm.
So a lot of people get it. And I think from an evolutionary standpoint, that's what the virus needs. If it killed everybody, let's say within 15 minutes of you getting it, it would have died out already, right? It wouldn't have had a chance to spread.
Right. Right.
So that's it. And the other thing is is that you may have it and not know it, and you can infect other people.
Yeah.
You
that's
know
true.
that, and I said, well, gee, maybe I do need this vaccine.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Our best to everybody out in Vegas, all of our friends and colleagues. You know, we know you're struggling, but our best to you guys, and we definitely think it's going to get better. And to everybody that celebrates it, happy Thanksgiving. We're gonna we're gonna be back with you with new shows in the beginning of December, and so hopefully you can be with your families during the holiday season. Have some giant overstuffed turkeys or whatever you guys eat.
Are you gonna
And
eat turkey?
I probably will.
Yeah, me too.
I'll
I mean,
break
it's been
down
a
and eat some
year.
turkey.
It's been a year since I had
Yeah.
anything like
Yeah.
that. But
Hopefully you can have it with your families. If not, hopefully you can have a wonderful, peaceful time. But for John, this is Jamie, and we'll see you in December.